The world is changing. Coronavirus, riots, demonstrations, financial difficulties, domestic challenges, challenges with our kids, challenges with our emotions. What's going on? How are we supposed to cope with everything that's happening, with all the difficulties, with all the challenges? What does it mean for us? What are we supposed to learn from this? How do we strengthen ourselves through this challenging time? I'd like to tell you an ancient story that's been going around for hundreds of years. A story of wisdom, a story of clarity, a story that teaches us the purpose and the essence of life. A story which is also a parable. A long time ago, far, far away, an old and wise grandfather wanted to teach his grandson the wisdom of life. He called his grandson to come to him, and his grandson, of course, was very excited because he knew that every single time that he goes to his grandfather, something exciting is going to happen. So he goes to the grandfather, and in his hands, the grandfather is holding something. The grandson is all excited. What does my grandfather have in his hands? And slowly, slowly, the grandfather opens his hands. And in his hands is a small cocoon, a butterfly cocoon. And he looks at his grandson and he says, listen, in this cocoon, right now, there's a larva. But a beautiful butterfly will eventually grow out and come out from this cocoon. I'd like to give it to you as a present. It's something beautiful. It's an incredible process of nature. But there's one condition. When the butterfly tries to break out of the cocoon, tries to break the shell of the cocoon, do not help the butterfly. Agreed? And the grandson says, yeah, well, obviously. I'll do whatever you say, grandfather. Thank you. Slowly, slowly, the grandfather puts the cocoon in his hands and walks away. The grandson is all excited, goes back home, puts the cocoon somewhere high on a shelf to make sure that no one can damage it. And every single morning, he runs to the shelf to see what's happening with the cocoon. Days go by, nothing happens. And the grandson is starting to think, well, what is going to be? My grandfather said that a beautiful butterfly is going to come out of this cocoon, but it's not happening. And then one day, one morning, as the grandson goes to the shelf, he sees the cocoon, he sees something happening. The cocoon is moving. Something is going on inside. The grandson was so excited. He gently took the cocoon, put it on a place on his table where he could see what's going on, sat down and spent the day looking at this miracle of nature. Slowly, slowly, he sees the cocoon moving, and then suddenly he sees a split, a crack in the shell of the cocoon. Through the shell, he can see something that looks like a butterfly with folded wings trying to push his way out, moving from side to side. Time goes by, minutes, more than an hour, and the butterfly is not managing to break the shell. The grandson, who felt a lot of pity for the butterfly, decided that he is going to help the butterfly. He takes the cocoon, and with his fingers, he splits open the shell. And outside crawls this butterfly and spreads its wings. It was beautiful. The wings were so colorful, so lovely. The child was looking with open, amazed eyes. Whoa, this is a miracle of nature. And then the butterfly starts flapping its wings, starts flying upwards, but it only managed to go up a few centimeters, and then suddenly it crashed down to the floor, hit the ground, and died. Oi, the child was devastated. What happened to my beautiful butterfly? Butterflies are supposed to be able to fly. Why isn't my butterfly flying? How could it have died? He takes the butterfly and he takes the cocoon and he runs to his grandfather And he comes in to him, and his grandfather says to him, yes, what happened? And the grandson starts crying, grandfather, the butterfly, it flew and it fell and it crashed and it died. The wise grandfather realized exactly what happened. Actually, he feared this was what's going to happen. And he turns to his grandson, caressing his head, and he says to him, my beloved grandson, you helped the butterfly and opened the cocoon yourself, didn't you? And the grandson, with an ashamed look, with tears in his eyes, says shyly, yes, grandfather, I did. His grandfather says to him, sit down. I'd like to explain to you something about the wisdom of life. The Almighty Creator, when He created this miraculous world, everything was created exactly the way it should be. When He created the butterfly, He created it in such a way that the butterfly himself needs to break open his shell. Why? Because that's the only way he'll be able to strengthen his wings. When the butterfly himself breaks the shell and crawls out of the shell of the cocoon, only then will his wings be strong enough to be able to fly and soar up in the air. When you opened the cocoon, when you helped the butterfly, you denied him that struggle. You denied him the option of toughening himself to be able to fly and soar up high. You see, my grandson, the difficulties of life are sometimes the blessings of life. Whenever there's a difficulty, it is a blessing. That's the parable. What's the moral of the parable? If you'd ask any person, what kind of life would you like to have? He'd say to you, I want to have everything going easy. I want to have lots of money. I want to have a wonderful relationship with my wife. I want to have wonderful kids. I want to live in the perfect neighborhood, drive the perfect car, never be sick, never be ill, grow old, gently and peacefully. It's not the way things happen. Life is hard. There are difficulties in life. They're hardships. And do you know why they're hardships? Because the hardships and the difficulties are what strengthen us. They're what make us grow. They allow us to grow. They toughen us. They allow us to soar our wings and fly high. Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, in his book Likutei Moharan, on the second part, at the beginning of Torah 12, the 12th chapter, this is exactly what he says. Because falling and falling is the purpose of ascending. The only way you manage to ascend, to rise, is when you fall. This is what it says in the book of Micha, on chapter 7, on verse 8. Ki nafalti kamti. Why did I rise? Because I fell. Through falling, I rise. The times that we're in are challenging times, difficult times. People are having to cope with very, very difficult things. Financial problems, family problems, emotional problems. We need to remember, it says in the book of Tehillim in chapter 145, Tov umeitiv lakol. Hashem is good and benevolent to everyone. V'rachamav al kol ma'asav. And He has mercy for everything that He has created. We don't understand what is going on. We don't understand all the difficulties. But what we do know is that Hashem does everything for the best. And through the difficulties, that is how we're going to grow. We are all going to grow from the challenges that these times have set before us. Until we meet the next time, may the blessing of Hashem be upon you. May you all be in good health, and may you all manage to grow through all the challenges and difficulties.